Good Friday morning. This is Aaron with the Beth Manual Virtual Kollel, and this week we're studying Parashat Tavo, which comes out of Deuteronomy 26 and chapter 26, verse 1. So let's just get to studying. I'm going to share my screen with you. If you'd like to follow along, the link is in the on the page at bethmanual.org/kollel. And we're right at the beginning of the chapter here. So Devarim is Deuteronomy, and Kaf Vav is 26. If you're ever wondering how that works, well, in this case, Kaf is 20, and Vav stands for 6. And then Aleph, we're looking at Pasuk Aleph, the first verse of the chapter. And I'll just read through it, and then we'll break it down into its words. Vehaya ki tavo el haaretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala virishta v'yashavta ba. Okay, so it begins with this word vehaya, and this is the root hey yod hey. And it's the Hebrew word for to be. And in this case, it's haya by itself would be it was or he was. But then we've got the vav in the beginning, which is notorious for transforming it into it's tense. And in this case, it's transforming it into an imperfect tense, which has more of a future tense. So it becomes it will be, presenting a future scenario. Ki, and as I said before, ki has many different ways it can be translated, but it always refers to a cause and effect type of relationship. And so it can be because, for, and it can be when this happens, then this, right? So, and that's really what's going to make sense in this particular verse. So it will be when. Tavo comes from the root bo, beit, vav, aleph, bo. It means come. And the tav in the beginning shows us that we are in a second person imperfect or future tense. So you will come, right? And it's singular, speaking to the reader as an individual, right? So, and it will be when you will come, or when you come. El means it's a preposition to, toward, into. El. Haaretz. So haaretz is, the root of it is eretz. Normally it's eretz, which means land. But when this is just the prefix that means it's the definite article. When that gets added on, the vowel changes to ah. So it's haaretz. Okay, so it will be when you come into the land. Asher. Now that's the relative pronoun. It's usually translated, or in English, our relative pronouns are that, which, when, where, that kind of thing. So what happens with a relative pronoun is whatever comes after it, the phrase that comes after it, is going to describe the noun that came before. So it's a place, haaretz. So in English, when we use a relative pronoun for a place, we say where. So it's the land where, or I guess, or since it's an object, you could say that, right? The land that, right? And then in this case, or so now this word here is the name of God. We don't pronounce it as it's written, but when we're reading it, we'll say Adonai or Hashem, right? That the Lord and Elohecha is your God. So that normally this would be Elohim, but then it's got this suffix on it. Echa means your, and so a lot of words that end with this cha. If it's a noun, it's going to be belonging to you, and we'll see that actually in the next verse, for example, right? So your God, the Lord your God, noten is gives or is giving. It's a participle. So the root of this is nun tav nun, which means giving, or it can also mean like setting or appointing. It's got a variety of things it can be translated as. It's in what's called the participle form, and to a modern Hebrew speaker, that's just the same, just a present tense. But technically, it's not really a verb tense in biblical Hebrew. It's sort of a participle is sort of a hybrid between a noun, a verb, and an adjective. It can be any of those things. And so if this can be giving, gives, a giver. It's really a non-specific time. That's what you get when you get a participle. It's the time is not really included in the information about that in that word. So it's not necessarily that it's happening right now, as much as it's describing God as the giver. And so that's the idea. So that the Lord your God, in it, the best we can do usually when we're translating is to just make it present tense. We'll just say the Lord your God gives or is giving. Lecha, and so this is the same cha ending here, except instead of it being on a noun, it's on a preposition. And that's the preposition is this l. It means to or for. It can be a lot of different things, but in this case, giving to you, right? So the Lord your God gives to you. Nahala. Okay, so nahala is this is the first actual really interesting word we got in this verse. It means an inheritance. So it's a noun, and the main letters, the root letters, the shoresh of it are these letters right here. Are nun, chet, lamed. Other word with that same root, if it's just nahal means a stream. It's like you could say a valley where a stream flows. It's an intermittent stream that flows with the seasons. And so you can kind of see the connection between a nahala, which is an inheritance, and this flowing stream. Because if you imagine that the possession of an inheritance flows down, it just moves down from parents to children, generation to generation, and so the land of Israel is being given to the sons of Israel as an inheritance, as a nachala. It gets passed down. Okay, and now the next word, virishta. Okay, this is a more complicated word. So the root of it, if I'm not mistaken, is yod resh shin. And yod resh shin, yoresh means to take possession, to own, to claim, to occupy. It's like it's to take it as your own and to own it, to take control over it. Okay, so that would be like yore should be the participle form of that. So and then there's a few things going on here. We've got this suffix on there, and that means her. So you take possession of her, and the her here is the land, because it's a feminine noun. Land is feminine, and so it would be translated as it in English, since we don't have those kind of gendered nouns, right? So yarashta would be the normal way to say you have taken possession, yarashta, but then the vav comes in here and reverses it, so it becomes you will take possession of it. And so then with the ending on there and the conversive vav, the vowels get shortened, and that's how we end up with the yarashta. So anyway, so far we have when you come into the land that the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance, and you take possession of it. Great. And the yeshavta. Ba. Okay. The root of this one is yashav, yod shin beit, and that means it means to settle. It can mean to live. It can be to sit. Like the basic meaning of it is to sit, but it's very commonly to live somewhere, to sit somewhere, to settle somewhere, to inhabit a place. So to build a home, and so you can see yashavta would be you have sit, or you have sit, or you have settled, and you have sat or settled, and then the vav reverses that. So and you will settle, and then ba is the so we have the meaning in it or it, and then the ba meaning in. So v'yashavta ba, you have settled in it, right? Okay, so far we have not, this is not a sentence. This is only setting up for the next verse. So it will be when you come into the land that the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance, and you take possession of it and you settle in it, then what? Okay, that's where verse 2 comes in. We'll try to get through this one quickly because I don't want to take up too much time. V'lakachta mereshit kol pri ha'adama asher tavi me'artzecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach v'samta vatene v'halachta el hamakom asher yivchar Adonai Elohecha lishaken shmo sham. Okay, I know that was kind of fast, but we'll just try to get through this long verse quickly. V'lakachta, so conversive vav, second person, so it's, and the root is lakach, that means to take. So you shall take. Mereshit, so the root is reshit, which means beginning or the first, and then me meaning from. All right, and according to the commentators, this means that from means not all, you take some of, right? So you lakachta mereshit, you take some of the first of what? Kol. So the kol is all of, and then pri is fruit of, and ha'adama means the land. So we have a quadruple construct here. So you shall take from the first of all of the fruit of the land. So these three words are in their construct state, and that's in an absolute state, and so they're all combined together, right? Asher, the relative pronoun. So this is going to be describing the fruit. Tavi me'artzecha. Tavi. Okay, so this is interesting. It's related to this word bo, like this one here. But instead, you can see this is tavo, and this is tavi. The difference being that vowel. Okay, this is indicating that instead of it being in its normal or its simple call verb form, it's in a different verb form called hifil, which is going to be causing, right? So tavo means you will come. In the hifil form, it's causing to come. So it's you will cause something to come. And that causing to come is, we say in English, to bring. All right, so which you bring, you will bring. Me'artzecha. So that me is the same as this me, means from. And then cha means your, and eretz is what's in the middle, land. It's the same as this one here. Okay, so you'll bring from your land, asher. Okay, now it's a relative pronoun. This time we're going to be describing the land. And this happens very often whenever the land is mentioned. This describing phrase comes afterward. The land that Adonai Elohecha noten lacha. All right, the Lord, that's the name of God. Elohecha, we said before, is your God, with the cha on the end, is your. Noten is giving or gives. Lach. Okay, so here you have lecha, here we have lach. And someone might look at that and go, why is it saying you feminine all of a sudden? Because it looks like the feminine form. It's identical to the feminine form. It's actually not the feminine form. It is what's called the tzurat hefsek, which means the pausal form. So sometimes the vowels will change when we get to a dividing point where you have maybe a comma or a semicolon in English, and it's just part of the cadence of the sentence. And so that this still is a masculine one describing you, but it's just at the end of a phrase, and that's kind of how it changes sometimes. Doesn't happen in modern Hebrew like that. That's just a biblical thing. And then visamta vatene. So the root of this is sim and then so it's sin mem. The yod drops off because it tends to do that when it's in the middle, and that means to put. To simply to put, to place, something like that. Sometimes it's to give or grant, but it's or to appoint. But it's just generally setting something, and then you could see it's got the you in it, and so you shall, or well, it's this would samta would normally mean you put, you did put, right, and then the vav reverses it, so you shall put. Vatene. So tene, this is a relatively rare word. Tene means a basket. It's literally a basket, like think of like a wicker basket or something along those lines. Va is, or ba means in, and this is va just because it comes right after that ah sound, and so it loses that dot. But you shall put it in a basket. All right. So we're literally talking about taking fruit from the land that you bring from your land. So it wouldn't make sense to try to fulfill this from fruit from a different land. And you put that fruit into a basket. V'halachta. Okay, so the root is halach, which means to walk or to go. And then you can see it's in this form, the same as this one, where it's in the conversive vav, and it ultimately means you shall go, you shall walk. Where? El hamakom. So el means to or into. Right, just like here, hamakom. So makom means a place, and then it's got ha in front, which is the definite article, means the. Right, so to the place. You shall walk to the place or go to the place. Asher. Now, what place are we talking about? Let's describe it now with the next phrase. So the place where or that. Yivchar Hashem Elokecha. So yivchar means the root of that beit chet. Resh means to choose, and now it's in the imperfect third person. So the yod in the front of a verb generally means that it's imperfect, like it's future, and then it's also third person, meaning that it's going to be him or they, and in this case it's singular. Otherwise there would be a vav at the end, so it's singular. He will, ultimately, is what that vav is telling us. So he will choose. So the place hamakom asher, that Yivchar, he will choose, and then Hashem Elokecha, or the Lord your God, the Lord, and that's the subject of that. He will choose. So the place where the Lord your God will choose. Lishaken. So the root of this is shin kuf or shin kaf nun, and that means like shachan means to dwell, to reside somewhere. And you might recognize the term Shechina, which means the dwelling presence of God. It's not a biblical word, but it's comes from this very kind of context where God's just being described as dwelling. So it means to dwell, to take up residence, to inhabit, right? So this is in the infinitive form, which means like to do so, right? But it's not just to dwell; it's in this PL form. So it's like it's more intense than just to dwell. It's going to be also going to be causative, even though it's not hifil, because it's got an object to it. So it's not saying that God will dwell there. It's saying that he will make dwell shmo. And then shmo is the main root of that is shem, which means name. Shem is name, and then the o on the end means his. Okay, when you have o on the end of a noun, it's the pronominal suffix, third person singular, his name. So, and then sham just means there, in that place. All right, so lishaken shmo sham is to cause his name to dwell there. That's what we got. So now we have the complete idea of the commandment. When you come into the land that the Lord gives you as an inheritance, you're living there, you inhabit that place, you own the place, then you should take some of the first fruit of the land that you bring from your land that the Lord your God gives you, and then you put it in a basket. Go to the place where the Lord your God will choose to put his name there, and that's the end of the verse. And it's the basic introduction to the concept of the first fruits. And so that's a close look at this week's Parsha, and we'll take a look at the next week. Until then, Shabbat Shalom.